today I'm here in Braemar and we are performing the Doric Messiah. So this is Handel's Messiah to new words, Doric translation by Gordon Hay. And we've got a whole gang of people together from all over the community to sing and rehearse in a day's workshop 3 choruses from the Messiah in Doric for the first time. I mean, the thing about a come and sing is you have no idea who's going to turn up. You don't know if you're going to have the right balance of singers or anything like that. But actually it's worked out brilliantly. So we've had a good number of sopranos, altos, tenors, basses, some people that know some Doric, some people that know Messiah, but nobody that knows it all together.
The Hallelujah Chorus can be found in Filipino, in Hindi, and there's a wonderful Korean arrangement of it online. So why nay Doric? Doric is often thought of being the language for the lower classes, lower life, and the Messiah is a way up in the elite. What we're trying to do is bridge that gap.
I just wanted to start this, really only want to talk about the service tonight, not the quality. If there's time afterwards and we can field some questions about quality, fine. But primarily I want to talk about the service and the fact that as at this point in time, we are going to lose all Sunday services as of the 15th of April. I think I'm right in saying that. We had hoped earlier on that a benefactor had been found that could have subsidised the service, but for legal reasons that could not be taken forward. So we're back to the fact that we are going to lose the service.
We were informed about these reductions in the tendered services budget a few months ago by Aberdeenshire Council, and we discussed them at length and tried to propose some alternatives and some potential solutions to that. But unfortunately, on the issue of the Sunday services to Braemar and Fannin, we weren't able to come up with a suitable solution. So we've proceeded ahead with that at the end of our consultation period, and those changes will come into effect from 15th of April.
What do you feel about the standard of service on Deeside, on the 201 and the 202?
Well, I'm aware that there have been issues on the corridor. Certainly, there's been some mechanical issues reported and some late running and some issues with the service delivery. Obviously, we'd prefer that to not be the case, and our local team based in the Balliter depot and in Aberdeen do everything they can to try and minimise the disruption to that. I think a lot of the complications that comes with the service disruption on the Deeside corridor is just the length of time it takes us to get to an incident, particularly with a vehicle. You know, it's either having to travel from Balliter or even from Aberdeen for more engineering related assistance, and that is definitely a challenge. But also, we do want to try and minimise that as much as possible.
There are an awful lot of breakdowns. Why does it happen so often? It's almost on a daily basis.
Well, I don't know if I'd necessarily agree it's on a daily basis. Certainly, I can see that there are some instances where it's more frequent than obviously we prefer no breakdowns at all. But generally, it is perhaps more frequent than we'd like. But I think you've got to remember that we operate thousands of miles a week on the corridor, so the vast majority of journeys will proceed without any issue. Obviously, any time we do have a breakdown or an issue with the service, we're letting customers down, and we really don't want to do that. So as I said earlier, our controllers, our operations manager, our engineering teams, they're working really hard to prevent that if possible, and deal with issues as quickly as possible when they do happen.
Is it just that the buses are too old, they're not up to standard?
I don't know if I'd agree that buses are too old. Certainly they meet all requirements in terms of legislation, and they're within our sort of general age profile that we would have. Obviously we're trying very hard to invest in our fleet across North Scotland, so we spent millions of pounds in the past 3 years on I think over 30 buses now in North Scotland. We're just about to introduce 30 buses up on the corridor up towards Banff and Macduff, and that will allow some of the older vehicles in the fleet to be moved around, and the oldest ones to drop out, and we will move some other ones around to try and enhance the service completely. I think it's a very difficult climate for us to justify that investment when we've got things like the significant cuts to tendered services from the City Council, from Aberdeenshire Council, the increased congestion in Aberdeen city centre, which is causing us increased operating costs and things like that. So we're working hard to try and mitigate the impact of those costs, but it certainly does make it more difficult to secure that investment in the fleet.
Customers, many of them elderly, do feel that the buses are old, they're rickety, they're not suited really to the rural journey up to Balliter and Braemar, and they're also often very cold. Why should customers be subjected to that, and is that not one reason that the level of customers on the routes are so low?
I wouldn't agree that customer levels are low. Deeside's actually probably one of our better performing corridors in terms of passenger numbers, and we want to try and continue that as much as possible. Certainly we shouldn't expect customers to have to travel in buses that are not fit for service or too cold. So in terms of the type of vehicle used on the service, obviously it is predominantly coaches that we do use on the service, and that's a really difficult balance to get right, and it's something that we have. It's a discussion that we have with customers right across North Scotland, because we've got a mix of customers making long distance journeys who prefer the comfort of a coach, and we've got people making shorter journeys and people with maybe more restricted mobility who prefer a low floor bus, and it's a very difficult balance to get right with that.
Why are some of the school buses so cold? Some mornings the children can't see out.
I think there's been a couple of reported instances that you've fed back to me on that one. There's not a general answer with that. Buses do take time to warm up. We don't have buses idling for hours and hours before they start. That wouldn't be environmentally responsible for us to do. Heating systems are checked, at least every 28 days when the vehicles come in for inspection. A lot of the time, the school journey is the first journey in the day, so, and with the number of people on the bus, that also contributes to how quickly the bus can warm up. Certainly, if we've got issues with heating on a vehicle, we expect drivers to report that. We anticipate customers will report that as well, and our engineers will attend to it, and they will look at it to try and repair it as soon as they can.
Why does nothing on the bus work? The sockets don't work for charging your phones, the clock is never at the right time, and even the CCTV doesn't seem to work.
I would refute that, to be honest. Certainly, if there's issues with sockets or clocks, then whilst they're not safety critical items, then we'd expect them to be reported, and we would get them repaired. CCTV is definitely something that we focus on carefully. Certainly, there are instances when CCTV systems fail or have issues with them, but it is again one of the safety critical systems that we do check frequently, and we have maintenance contracts in place to have those systems maintained. And we receive requests from, requests from police, and we receive things we have to investigate based on customer feedback using CCTV, and we download that and we process that all the time, and the vast majority of the time we're able to get what we need by examining that CCTV.
There are electronic signs in many of the communities, Bankery and the Boyne, for example, but why not in Braemar? I mean, people in Braemar simply don't know if the bus is going to be late or if it's going to turn up at all, and they're stranded.
Well, the signs at the at bus stops have been installed by Nestrans and Aberdeenshire Council, and that was a pot of money that they had a while back to install them out. And obviously they've chosen which locations they wanted to use their limited budget to fund that. Obviously, we'd love to see that extended further, and if there's cases for that, or there's customer demand, we'll pass on that feedback. The tracking information is available at all stops. But where there's no road sign, where there's no sign at the side of the road, customers can access it via the Stagecoach mobile app, and we find that's really useful for people. It means that you don't technically need a sign there as long as you have a mobile phone and are able to access the app, and it does provide really useful information. We're seeing more and more people use that all the time.
But many people in Braemar are elderly and simply don't have access to that.
I think that's fair, but as I said, we try and provide that information in as many forms as possible. We talked about funding reductions earlier, and in the case of those, it's simply down to the limited capital available for those screens and where they can go.
Finally, can you assure people in Braemar and Upper Deeside that the service is being looked at and will be improved in terms of reliability and comfort?
We're working every day to make sure that the service is the most reliable and dependable that we can do. Obviously, we've taken the opportunity with the tender reductions in April to look at the timetables, to respond to customer feedback, to see what we need to do to adjust running times to make sure it's as punctual as possible. So we're hopeful that will be the case when the timetables come in. And as I said earlier, we're not removing our focus from improving the reliability of the service. And as I said, the general progress of our fleet investment programme will have a sort of cascade effect through the business, and we expect that to deliver improvements all across North Scotland.
Three, two, one.
Bring it further down.
This means everything to me personally, and to the gathering, and to Braemar on the whole. I feel that, and I really hope it's going to be a great asset to the community. It's a focal point for Highland Games, the centre, and obviously we're telling the story of the Braemar gathering and its history, but also of the kindred gatherings from the neighbouring villages, and as it progresses it will add the Scottish Games Association, Grampian Games, and further afield.
I'm excited, I'm nervous, but I can't wait to welcome people through the doors of the pavilion and just to be able to show them what we've created here. It's the world's first exhibition focusing on the story of the Highland Games, and focusing on the history, the 200-year history of the Braemar Royal Highland Society and the Highland Gathering here. We've also got a cafe and shop that it will be open daily, so it will be a nice place for people to be able to come in out of the bad weather at this time of year. We've got snow this morning, and hopefully we can make a great business here.
Music Making Landscapes is a project between myself, Katy FENNEMA on oboe, Graham McIntosh on piano, and Naomi McIntosh, a designer and maker. We're all based in the wonderful area of the Cairngorms, and as our backdrop we all look out on the mountain of Loch Nagar. So this project has been inspired by the scenery of Loch Nagar. We've started with the idea of looking at the landscape, the people that have walked in the landscape of Loch Nagar, whether that was the drovers in the past, whether that was the illicit distillers, the people going to the harvest in the Lothians, the men coming back after Culloden, and more recently for me, watching Braemar Mountain Rescue Team do rescues on Loch Nagar late at night. We've taken all of these stories and we've composed, both myself and my father, Graham McIntosh, a 15-minute piece of music that depicts some of these stories. And then we've taken that music and given that to Naomi, who has been working using a wide variety of mediums to interpret that music and to show it in a visual way. So we will have an exhibition running at St Margaret's from the 19th to the 21st of April. And on the 19th, Friday the 19th, we will open the exhibition at 6:30 in the evening and with a performance at 7:15. Everyone is very welcome.
Hello and welcome to Balmoral. I'm Robbie Simpson and I'm going to give you some tips on how to tackle the Balmoral races. Balmoral was one of my first ever races when I was in school, aged 12 years old, and after that I went on to run all the different running events, the 5k, the 10k and the 15 mile, and I had the course record in the 10k and the 15 mile until someone broke the 15 mile recently. After these events I've gone on to run an international mountain running events and the Commonwealth Games in Gold Coast where I won a bronze medal in the marathon. So before we get going, we're going to start off with a warm-up, which I'm going to do with the help of some mascots. Okay, so before starting any race, it's important to do a warm-up to get the blood flowing to the muscles and to help you loosen off before you start running fast. So today we're going to start with 3 really simple exercises and then go into a nice easy jog. So the first one's going to be walking forward, lifting the knees up like this, going onto the toes. Have a go at that. Okay. And the next exercise is just nice simple lunges, like this, going forward on each leg. So this is to stretch off the glute and get the muscle sort of engaging before you're ready to start running. So just have a go at that. Okay. And then we can try it on the other leg as well. Final exercise is going to be similar but side lunges. Just try that again, try one step to one side and the other. That's good. Okay, and then we can try going for a nice easy run. So we'll just go for a jog. Okay, here we are on the start line for all the Run Balmoral races. So the time you get here, you want to be well warmed up, hydrated, and start thinking about what your strategy is for the race. So you want to line up appropriate to where you want to start the race and start thinking about how you're going to pace it. For example, in the 10k race, you want to get through that distance and the hill without running out of energy. So it's really important not to start too fast and to run appropriate pace from the start to what you can manage. So here we are at the start of the hill. This is 3 kilometres into the race and the hill goes on for 1.5 kilometres. So it's really important to pace the hill well, to break it up into manageable chunks and try and keep a nice steady rhythm going. So I would recommend shortening your stride, actually slowing down a bit and just trying to get as far as you can running. If you do have to stop and walk, then try and keep a good rhythm going, keeping the fast cadence, and then aim to try and run again after say 1 or 2 minutes of walking. And it does level off before the end. So the worst part is to begin with, like the first few hundred meters. Once you get beyond that, it does start to level off. And then once you get to the top, it's all downhill and you're almost halfway into the race. Okay, so this rock marks the highest point of the course. From here till the end, it's all downhill, it's fast running, and it's actually my favourite part of the course, running through these woods. So thank you to everyone who's filmed today and also the mascots from our charities who have helped out. And I wish you a really successful and enjoyable Run Balmoral 2019.